بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعين ونستغفر ونستهديه ونتوكل عليه ونصلي ونسلم على عبد المعيد ورسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بمحمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك منا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر الأهد منا لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We were speaking how the groundwork was laid for the revolution of Karbala, for the day of Ashura. And we said that the events that happened during the time of, for example, Muawiyah and Yazid, and during that time, they didn't give birth to the mission of Imam Hussein, though that is ultimately that happened on the ground. But this was already planned way in advance by Allah Azza wa Jalla Sha'na, to give mankind yet another inayah, yet another example of steadfastness, of iman and of belief, of loyalty, of sacrifice, of selflessness, of generosity, of valor, of bravery. This was laid way in advance before even the events that happened before the event of Karbala actually transpired. And we have mentioned that Allah has spoke about that in the previous books, in the Torah, in the Quran, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. For example, that there is a greater sacrifice coming. And we've mentioned also that this very event is even mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, where Allah, a wali of Allah, that Allah is holding a great sacrifice at the river of Euphrates. This is even mentioned by Anbiya before. Then Holy Prophet ﷺ also. And let us just go back before that, even the beheading of Hazrat Yahya Salamullah alayhi, there is a greater sacrifice than that. And then Hazrat Rasul ﷺ mentioned on several occasions how he loves Imam Hussein amongst others alayhi salam, and what will happen, what will transpire, what's going to happen on the land of Karbala, and how Jibreel brought some of the ground to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have mentioned some ahadith. We couldn't mention all of those ahadith because of the particular format we are doing this. But this is available in the Kutubu Riwayat, in the books of Riwayat and Ahadith, and the books of history as well. Then, in addition to that, Hazrat Amirul Mu'mineen Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib Salamullah alayhi, how he also spoke about the land which is Karb and Bala, the Karbala, and what will happen to Imam Hussein. So, Anbiya Salamullah alayhim Allah, at first, by virtue of the messages that was brought to mankind from Allah, and Anbiya, and Rasulullah, Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, they all prophesied the message that's going to happen. Now, let us come to this particular stage, that the battle of Karbala remain the criterion, remain the example, remain the battle which all other battles, which all other revolutions and freedom-loving people can look at. And when they look at Imam Hussein, they can deduct, they can get their strength, motivation, their courage, and eventually their harakat, their movements from the message of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, salamullah alayhi, is the yardstick, is the basis, in this case, of what we would call freedom-loving people, freedom movement, liberation movements. They should look at Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi, and we will speak a little bit about that small installment in this particular episode. That Imam Hussein says, Inna Ahl al-Bayt, that indeed the Ahl al-Bayt of Nubuwwah, that the Ahl al-Bayt is the Ahl al-Bayt of prophethood. And they are the ones they are the ones in which Risala is cemented and explained. Ahl al-Bayt, who knows more than Amir al-Mu'mineen? Who's more knowledgeable? Who knows more? Who can explain Islam, Quran, Rasulullah, Allah better than Amir al-Mu'mineen? Who? There isn't. There isn't. None equal Amir al-Mu'mineen, none of them except Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But apart from the Holy Prophet, who's more knowledgeable? When Allah referred to Quran, when Allah referred to Kunu ma'as sadiqeen, be with those who are truthful, who's more truthful than Ali ibn Abi Talib? Then Ahl al-Bayt, Imam Hassan or Imam Hussein or Hazrat Fatima salamullah alayhim, who's more truthful and honored? So when we look at the sifat of mu'mineen whom Allah has praised in Quran, that's Anbiya and Ahl al-Bayt salamullah alayhim. So Ahl al-Bayt has the stature. As the stature of إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. So that is Ahl al-Bayt salamullah alayhi. When we look at a particular, let us zoom in a particular time, and we can most probably categorize that particular time in 4 stages. And that was also the build-up to the revolution of Imam Hussein, to the Nahda, the mission, the movement of Imam Hussein. And category number 1 can be the last few years, the last 3 or 4 years of the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then number 2, the next level can be considered during the time of Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi and the treaty with Muawiyah. Then let us speak about the first level first. During the last few years of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, that period is very critical, and that is the Battle of Siffin, when Muawiyah, the governor of Sham, went to war with the Khalifa of his time, which is Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he was the 4th Khalifa. And we even have those who oppose, let alone going to war, those who oppose the Khalifa of their time. We know the verdict, we know it. It has been made clear what that particular verdict is. Yet is considered to be mu'min and believer. And this is in fact against the very principles of some of them. Let us look at what happened during the time Muawiyah went to war with Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali in the Battle of Siffin. And during that time, Muawiyah enticed and he bought some of the soldiers of Amir al-Mu'mineen at the battle. And that caused that some of those who fought were in the Jaysh of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they left Amir al-Mu'mineen. So there, the Battle of Siffin, it ended with, unfortunately, many of the soldiers left Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then we obviously know the situation, what happened, where he caused a lot of treachery and caused a lot of fear. He spread fear and bribery. Does that rings a bell with what's happened even in our current situations, where we are in our current situations in our respective countries, where they are spreading fear, intimidating people in order to pay allegiance, and they are bribing even people in order to do. That rings a bell. As we've said, history is not only an anecdote in history, and you read history in order to go to sleep, and then you fall asleep, and tomorrow you haven't learned anything. It's not like, for example, Little Red Riding Hood or any of these stories. At least in the story of Little Red Riding Hood, you can learn, for example, that it is dangerous for children to walk alone. That's the moral of the story. Likewise here, when Allah speaks about history, He speaks about i'tibar, He speaks about take lessons, take note when we speak about history. Same. It's not only what happened in history, but bring it to make it relevant, bring it to our day-to-day and see what's happening around. Become aware. And this is what Muawiyah did. He intimidated, he bribed, he threatened people's livelihoods. This is what Muawiyah did. And how can we even one iota of agreement to actions like that, and is even to some degree highly respected in certain quarters? And this is not accepted at all. So when we look at that, Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck in the mosque. They were too afraid to confront Amir al-Mu'mineen head on. They only had to kill him when he was in sajda, in salah. And they were successful in bringing an end to the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullah alayhi. So that is already the groundwork to establish himself, to consolidate his grip on power, and that's what Muawiyah did. He removed Amir al-Mu'mineen from the picture, from this whole ruling, and from establishing the rule of Allah, establishing justice of Allah, establishing a government which Allah wanted. No, Muawiyah removed that, and he brought his own system, his own cronies, his own family was brought in, nepotism spread amongst in his administration. And that is, if we can say so, the first part of the building up where this was not accepted. Then it came to Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi. And with Imam Hassan also, he consolidated his grip on power, enticed some of the ruling classes and some of the senior members in the army to entice them with goods, to entice them with money, and with some he threatened, yes, and your leaders of clans, he sent them gifts in order to buy the hearts over to his side and not to give any strength to Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi. And up to this level where certain commanders of the army of Imam Hassan and even commanders of his own army, they went over, the commanders of Imam Hassan's army and those who pledged allegiance to Imam Hassan, no, they were brought, they were bribed, up to the point where they even said they can bring Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi even on their shoulders in front of Muawiyah. Up to this level is what they now said they in front of Muawiyah. Up to this level, when Imam Hassan saw that this is now the situation, Imam Hassan then decided that there should be a truce, a treaty between him and Muawiyah. And one of those, there were several conditions, and we will just mention a few, maybe one or two, that Amir al-Mu'mineen should not be cursed. Muawiyah cursed, had a line inserted in Adhan where he cursed Amir al-Mu'mineen in every Adhan, in every Salah, up to the point that the Ahl Sham, the people of Sham, they didn't know actually who Ahl al-Bayt were. Those who didn't know, and that was his propaganda. You know, does that ring a bell? With the multimedia we have today, who is propagating, who is presenting a certain narrative, and then they want you to know a certain narrative. The same what Muawiyah did. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Take note of what happened back then and apply today and see what's happening. So Muawiyah, we saw that this is what he did. And then Imam Hassan said in that treaty, must remove the cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. How can they still speak in a good manner about Muawiyah while he did this? Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, the first one aside from Hazrat Khadija salamullah alayha, who accepted Islam. And we say accepted Islam, not that he wasn't, but when Holy Prophet asked who's going to believe, and Amir al-Mu'mineen 13, 14 years, he said, yes, I will. This personality, the hero of Badr, Uhud, Hunayn, Khaybar, mention a battle, Amir al-Mu'mineen was there. He was the victor. And here a person like that was cursed every adhan, every salah, which Muawiyah did. No. So Imam Hassan wanted to remove that part from the other. And the other condition was, there were several others, there's not time to mention, let us just highlight the most important one here, is not to name a successor. Muawiyah should not name a successor after him. And it was signed, etc. Then Imam Hassan left Kufa on his way to Medina. And the moment Imam Hassan left for Medina, Muawiyah tore up that treaty and did not respect any terms and conditions of that treaty. He then, through his machinations, orchestrated the poisoning of Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi. And now, when it was the death of Imam Hassan salamullah alayhi, now the stage is open for Muawiyah to Now eventually one of the big obstacles was removed, and that was Imam Hassan. And now he was at that time the absolute ruler of the Muslim empire. And now this is now level 3, where he wanted to consolidate his grip on power even further, and this he intensified the killing. He intensified the fear amongst people, force, coercion. He even bribed the aristocracy. And this is what Muawiyah did. Muawiyah did that up to the point where he sent a message to Imam Hussein. We can't now mention the whole historical event of what happened back then, but let us just summarize and highlight certain points. Imam Hussein alayhi salam received a letter from Muawiyah, and Muawiyah wanted now to use force against Imam Hussein. And in that letter, he wanted people to pay allegiance to what he wanted, his idea. And many of the Sahabi and Tabi'een opposed him, and one of them was Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr. Abdurrahman, the son of the first Khalifa, opposed, wasn't happy with what he is now deciding. And you had here that Muawiyah, his son Yazid was known to have played with monkeys and with dogs. He even had slave girls and those women to entertain him openly. He was a khamir. He was a drunkard. Now such a person was known, spoiled brat if we can say. This person now, and he said, Yazid said, La'iba Banu Hashim bil mulk, wala wahyu nazal. He said that Banu Hashim, this thing that the Holy Prophet came with, this wahi, that was la'ib, he was just playing. He openly defied that there was no Quran that came, no prophethood. This was all la'ib, it was all theatrics, it was all a play. Someone like that become then leader, Khalifa of the Muslim empire, of Muslimin? No. And that's why when Muawiyah sent that letter, Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi replied, and let us just mention a few here. He says, Atani kitabak, I've received your letter. وَأَنَّ بِغَيْرَ الَّذِي بَلَغَ عَنِّي بِهَا جَدِيرٌ. Don't think that I'm the one which you can manipulate like others. I'm not of those who you can intimidate, whom you can influence or manipulate. وَمَرَا, and in the the reply of Imam Hussein, he says, وَمَا أَرَدْتُ لَكَ الْمُحَارَبَةَ. I don't want to fight you. We don't want to fight. وَمَا أَذُنُّ لِي إِنَّ لَعُذْرًا فِي تَرْكِ الْجِهَادِ. And at the same time, I will also not have any excuse to leave jihad against you. Meaning, I'm not afraid. This is Imam Hussein, showing his salaba, showing his steadfastness. Not afraid. Don't come and intimidate this family, Ahlul Bayt. Atuhaddiduna bil maut, as Imam Zainul Abidin said to Yazid. You want to threaten us with death? Inna al maut lana ada. That indeed death for us is normal. Most Anbiya, almost all of them, never lived a natural life. Almost all of them were killed at the hands of men. And now also Imam Ali was killed. Imam Hassan was killed, and now they are also facing that innal maut lana ada, that indeed for us, Ahlul Bayt, death for us, normal. Don't come and threaten me. Don't come. Wa shahada lana karama, and especially attain martyrdom in the path of Allah and for Allah. That is our karama. That is our honor. You want to threaten Ahlul Bayt? No. Let this be a lesson for us deriving our teachings, the way we fashion our lives from Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim. Don't allow anyone to intimidate or threaten you. Be and follow the example of Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi. So that was the response. Then Muawiyah knew, there is nothing. He can't use that tactic against Imam Hussein. Any case, he continued informing people and subjugating people, and then he sent Marwan also. Marwan bin Hakam. Ruthless leader. Ruthless. Absolute ruthless. He himself said, those who oppose, and he said, and he showed, and he pointed to Muawiyah, and appointing Yazid will face this, and that was his sword. That was the type. He just wanted to wipe out, and that's what he did. He was ruthless, this one. Any case, that was the situation, the third stage. And as we've said, that this Muawiyah and his son, especially his son Yazid, was playing with animals, consulting animals. Sharib al-Khamr, he was drinking wine openly. And he had especially respect all, we respect all religions, but he had those Christian girls coming and singing for him, entertaining him, amusements, malahi, entertaining, let there be entertainment of khamr, and you can imagine women, etc. This was Yazid. And Imam Hussein must pay allegiance to him. Kalla, never. That's why Imam Hussein said, Mithli, a person like me, la yubai' mithlili, a person like me, don't give allegiance to a person like Yazid. Laying the foundation, the methodology, how do we treat leaders or people who want to officiate positions, and they are acting and believing like this, that you should never accept leaders like that. Even in our day-to-day lives. Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi is not a figure that was 14 or 1300 years ago. No. Kulla yawmin ashura wa kulla ardin Karbala. Every day is Ashura, and every situation and place is Karbala. And the third stage was, the fourth stage was at the death of Muawiyah. And here Yazid came and he forced Imam Hussein by Jabr, wanted to use force, and it was now clear that there was no other option. And if we can look at, for example, Amabada, as he said to Marwan, Yazid said to Marwan, take the bay'ah from Hussein with force. And he said even, وَأَخَذَ عَنْ even لَيْسَ فِي رُخْصَ, and don't even give him permission. And then he said, And then he said, فَمَنْ أَبَى, and whoever oppose, عَلَيْكَ فَضْرِبْ عُنَقَهُ, and strike him at his head, at his neck. This was the situation. And Imam Hussein knew now that there is no way out other than he is now declaring his revolution. And so in a nutshell, this is the 4 stages in summary which we have itemized. Let us go to Karbala. Let us just mention one aspect, and that is they were waiting for the news of Imam Hussein, the people in Medina, and especially his family. And one of the women came, and there was someone who came from Medina and asked. And so this woman came forth and she asked, give us some news about Imam Hussein. And then the one who accompanied him, he said, who's this woman who's asking? He was surprised, who's asking about Imam Hussein. So he answered, this is Baneen. This is the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. The mother, you were waiting, give us some news. Then she said, فَأَحَبَّ أَيَخْبَرُهَا, and she want to know, she would love to know how's things with Imam Hussein there. And here they didn't know how to answer. Then 4 of her sons went with Imam Hussein. So they answered, عَظَمَ اللَّهُ لَكِ الْأَجْرِ بِوَلَدِكَ Abdullah. So she asked, I want to know about Sayyidi, I want to know about my Sayyid, my master Hussein, what happened? This is the mother. This is the wife of Amirul Mu'mineen. She wanted to know about Imam Hussein. She was less interested in her own sons, her own children. She wanted to know about, Khabirni, inform me about Sayyidi, about my Sayyid, Imam Hussein. So he says, عَظَمَ لَكِ الْأَجْرِ بِوَلَدِكَ Abdullah. Then فَقَالَتْ لَا أَخْبِرْنِي عَنْ سَيِّدِي أَبِي Abdullah. And then he said to her, عَظَمَ لَكِ الْأَجْرِ بِوَلَدِكَ Uthman. And then she says, خَبِّرْنِي, inform me about my Sayyid, Hussein. And then he mentioned the 3rd son who was killed as well. And then he said, عَظَمَ اللَّهُ لَكِ الْأَجْرِ بِوَلَدِكَ Ja'far, by your son Ja'far. And then she insisted again, this time with a little bit irritation, I've asked you about Hussein, Sayyidi, how is he? Then he answered, عَظَمَ اللَّهُ لَكِ الْأَجْرِ بِوَلَدِكَ Al-Abbas. And then she said, I want to know about Hussein, what happened? And in this incident, she had the child of Abul Fadl on her arm. She didn't know what to do. Give me news about Imam Hussein. How is he? Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد منا لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله روح البقاء، بسم الله شير اللقاء، بسم الله شمس الضحى، بسم الله ابن اليقين، بسم الله روح البقاء، بسم الله شير اللقاء، بسم الله شمس الضحى، بسم الله ابن اليقين.